so much. Thank you for that great introduction. Thank all of you for being here tonight. What an extraordinary turnout. I'm very proud to have my older daughter, Kate, with me tonight. She's right over here. So we got a big primary coming up here on February the 5th, right? And I'm excited about being here, with all of you. We have such important work to do for this country, really enormous work to do. Because if you look at what America needs, it is so obvious that we need somebody not who will shuffle papers and administer, not somebody who can just give a good speech, but somebody who's actually willing to fight for the middle class in the United States of America. And yes, we need change, and we need change in the worst kind of way. But that change will never happen unless you have a president who's willing to stand up and fight against drug companies, insurance companies, oil companies, these entrenched interests that stand between America and what you so desperately need. And let me say one thing and say it clearly here at the outset. The first year after I'm sworn in as President of the United States, I will end this war in Iraq. I will have all combat troops out of Iraq in the first year. We will end combat missions in Iraq. There will be no permanent military bases in Iraq. And the other thing is we're going to hold accountable and responsible these paid mercenaries that have been working for Blackwater and companies like that. But at the heart and soul of this election is the strength and vitality of the middle class in America. Who will actually be the champion for the middle class? Who takes this fight for the middle class personally? Who understands the struggles that middle class families are going through every single day? This is the cause of my life, and I do take this fight personally. It is personal to me. And it's not that we don't know what needs to be done. We know exactly what needs to be done. America desperately needs universal health care for every man, woman, and child in this country. And we need to mandate health care coverage for every single human being in the United States to make sure that everybody has health care coverage. In addition to that, we need to deal with this huge issue of global warming by greening the economy in America. But we know what stands between America and the change that it needs. We will not have universal health care unless we have a president who's willing to take on drug companies, insurance companies, and their lobbyists. I am proud of the fact that of the 3 remaining candidates for president, only one, me, has never taken a dime from a Washington lobbyist or a special interest PAC. I don't want to be their president. I want to be yours. I want to stand up for the American people. And the stories, the healthcare stories that we hear every day are absolutely heartbreaking. And some people, I've heard some of the other candidates talk about how they want to sit at the table, give a seat at the table to drug companies, insurance companies, and negotiate with them. Let me tell you a story about why it cannot happen. You know, there was a young woman just a few weeks ago named Natalie Sarkeesian. Her family has actually been out campaigning and supporting my campaign. But she was a 17-year-old girl who needed a liver transplant operation. Her dad had worked all his life, paid his insurance premiums. He had health care coverage, but the insurance company would not pay for the liver transplant. The doctors intervened. The nurses intervened. Finally, they literally started marching in front of and picketing in front of the insurance company's offices. They finally caved in, said they'd pay for the liver transplant, and a few hours later she died. It was too late. And people say to me, as your president, They want me to sit at a table with those people and negotiate? Never. I will never do it. I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to fight for Natalie's family. I mean, look at the trade policies that America's had. NAFTA, CAFTA, trade deals that have cost America millions of jobs. Why? All just to pad the profits of the biggest corporations in America. We actually have a tax policy that gives tax breaks to American companies who are leaving here and taking jobs overseas. This is insanity. This must come to an end. And it will come to an end when I'm President of the United States. And I have to say, there's been a great deal of talk about change. You all have heard this talk about change in this campaign. But I have a question. When did our party change? When did we become the party that takes the most money from Washington lobbyists? When did we become the party that takes more money from drug companies and insurance companies? This is not the Democratic Party that I believe in. I believe in a Democratic Party that stands up for the middle class, for low-income families, for working men and women, who stands up against these moneyed, entrenched interests. And you need to tell all your friends and neighbors who are deciding what to do. The candidate who has raised the most money from drug companies is not a Republican. It is a Democrat. The candidate who's raised the most money from Washington lobbyists is not a Republican. It is a Democrat. And without naming names, I'll just tell you it's not me. And I intend to stand up to those people. I intend to fight for what we believe in. And I heard, this is actually pretty remarkable from my perspective, I heard just a few days ago Senator Obama talking about change and using it as an example of somebody who had brought change to America, Ronald Reagan. Yeah, here's the change that Ronald Reagan brought to America. He did everything in his power to destroy the organized labor movement. He created a tax structure that favored the richest Americans and the biggest corporations. He did incredible destruction to the environment by deregulating environmental regulation in this country. That president is not an example of change for the Democratic Party and the progressive values that all of us believe in. We know what needs to happen in this country. We do. I mean, if we're going to give a real chance to every American, it's fine that they finally raised the minimum wage in the Congress. It's going to $7.25 an hour. It's fine. It's not enough. Minimum wage ought to be at least $9.50 an hour. It ought to be indexed to go up on its own. I'm proud to be here tonight in the Teamsters Hall, but I want to say to everyone, no one will be a stronger champion in the White House for the organized labor movement in America. No one will stand stronger with the union movement than I will. I have a very, very strong record that I'm proud of. Just over the last few years, I've been involved over 200 times in organizing campaigns, in walking picket lines, in working with employers to allow organizing to take place, because it is central to growing and strengthening the middle class in this country, to grow and strengthen the organized labor movement. And what that means is, if you can join the Republican Party by signing your name to a card, any worker in America should be able to join a union by doing exactly the same thing. That's democracy. And when I am President of the United States, when it becomes necessary for the union to go out on strike and they're walking that picket line, nobody will walk through that picket line and take their jobs away from them. We also have to do something about this mortgage foreclosure crisis that we're facing in this country. So many families, the one thing that they've invested in their entire working lives is their home. We can't allow all these families to lose their home. There's so many things we need to do, a home rescue fund to help these families, but we also need a national predatory payday lending law that cracks down on these predators. And we have to make it easier for young people to go to college instead of making it harder. College tuition goes up. So many of our young people can't afford to go to college. If they go, they graduate with this crushing burden of debt. Here's my idea, very simple. We say to every young person in America, you graduate from high school, qualified to be in college, commit to work 10 hours a week while you're there. America pays your tuition and books at a state university or community college. And by the way, that can be paid for just by removing big banks as the intermediary in the student loan process. $4 or $5 billion a year that ought to be going to sending kids to college. I spoke earlier about greening the economy in America and investing in clean, renewable sources of energy. All those things have to be done. Global warming is a crisis, and America must lead. We carry an enormous responsibility to our children and our grandchildren and to future generations for America to lead on this issue. And we do need to make the polluters pay, to invest in clean, renewable sources of energy, to reduce our carbon emissions by 80% by the year 2050. But we also need a President of the United States who asks Americans to be patriotic about something other than war. We need a president who says we are in this together, and what we do together matters, much in the line of the famous John Kennedy inauguration speech. Ask not what your country can do for you. We need a president who calls on the American people to sacrifice, to be willing to conserve in our homes, in our workplaces, to drive different kinds of vehicles. It is our moral responsibility to our children and to all future generations. Now, in addition to all those things, and bringing this mess of a war in Iraq to an end, how about having a president? Here's a radical idea. How about having a president who actually believes in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights? When I'm sworn in as president, I will close Guantanamo, which is a national embarrassment. There will be no more rendition or secret prisons. There will be no more, and I use this word intentionally, illegal spying on the American people by the President of the United States. And there will be no more debate in America about what kind of torture is permissible. No torture is permissible in America or by Americans. We're going to actually restore America as the great moral leader in the world, which is who we are. It's what we're capable of being. We are the light. We have been the light. We must be the light again. George Bush has not made America safer. He's made America less safe. We need to live in a world where the world looks up to and respects the United States of America, where they say, America, that's who we want to be like. We have to restore our moral standing and our leadership in the world, and I will do that as President of the United States. And I want to say to you, when I talk about the fight that we have in front of us, we have an epic fight. It is the responsibility of the President to work with the Congress. I will do that. It is the responsibility of the President not to divide America, but to unite America. And it is the responsibility of the President to stand up to and fight these entrenched moneyed interests that keep America from getting what it deserves. It keeps the middle class from being able to do better. But I look at America, and this is the America that I see. I see an America where last year ExxonMobil made $40 billion. $40 billion. Look at what you're paying for gasoline at the pump. $40 billion. Where last year, the CEO of one of the largest health insurance companies in America made $200 million in 1 year. And then I take that picture of America and I put it side by side with this picture. Tonight, 47 million people in this country will go to bed knowing if their child gets sick, they'll have to go to the emergency room and beg for health care. Women tomorrow will do a self-exam, and just like my wife Elizabeth, they'll find a lump, and they'll figure out that they have breast cancer. But unlike us, some of these women will have no health care coverage. Where are they supposed to go? What are they supposed to do? You can't get chemotherapy in the emergency room, as every woman in this room knows. Tomorrow, and by the way, all that happening while the CEO of a health insurance company makes $200 million. Tomorrow morning, 37 million people will wake up in this country literally worried about feeding and clothing their children and living in poverty, while ExxonMobil makes $40 billion. I went to a shelter just a few weeks ago where they took in homeless moms with their children. It was an amazing place. Really, the families were wonderful, the women were extraordinary, and the people who ran it were too. But I said, so do you ever have to turn anybody away? And she said, yes. Sometimes, a few months ago, they turned 70, 75 families away in 1 month. And I said, these were single mothers, yes, with children. Some of them as many as 3 or 4 children. I said, so when you send them away, where do they go? Back to the street, back to cars. Children living on the street in the United States of America, the richest nation on the planet. Last year, 35 million people in this country, which is about the population of California, went hungry. 35 million. Tonight, 200,000 men and women who wore our uniform and served this country patriotically, veterans, will go to sleep under bridges and on grates. Brothers and sisters, enough is enough. It is time for us to stand up. It is time for us to say, we want our democracy back. And I came here tonight, and I know the reality. You know, I am not the $100 million campaign. The other two are. I'm not. I am not the campaign of glitz and glamour. But I'll tell you what I am. I am the guy that will fight for you and your family with every fiber of my being. This cause is personal to me. It is personal to me for the same reason that it would be personal to so many of you. Nobody has to explain this to me. I watched my grandmother, who helped raise me, who had a 5th, 6th grade education, came from a family of sharecroppers. I watched her take care of me, walk her way over to the mill, work her shift, and come back home. She would have done anything for me. I watched my mother and father do the same thing. My father went into mills for 36 years, day after day after day, hard, tedious work, just so that I could have a better life. Your parents, your grandparents, did exactly the same thing, and they have now passed this responsibility to us. Their torch that they carried and the responsibility that they met, that torch has now been passed to us. And they expected us to stand on their shoulders and to make certain that we did for our children and our grandchildren what they did for us. They struggled, they worked, and they sacrificed. And they did it for a reason. And we cannot let their hard work and sacrifice go for nothing. We have to meet our responsibility. And here's what we can do. If you're willing to stand up, if you're willing to speak out, if you're willing to rise up and say, we want our democracy back in the name of our parents and our grandparents and all those who struggled and suffered before us, what we can do together is we can create a tidal wave of change that sweeps across this country with a force and a magnitude that cannot be stopped. And when that wave of change is finished, what all of us will be able to do is to look our children in the eye and say, we did for you what our parents did for us, we made absolutely certain that we left America better than we found it, and that we gave you a better life than we had. Join us in this movement. Join us in this cause. Join us in this effort to change America, to strengthen the middle class, to fight for working people. We need you all. God bless you. Thank you for being here.